Hello everyone, this is Megneous and welcome to my first episode of my Guild Wars 2 playlist. I apologize for not uploading in quite a while, but I was too busy recovering from an entire weekend of almost no sleep. Yes, I have good news and bad news. The good news being that I played Guild Wars 2 for quite a long time over the weekend, and I have lots to talk about in terms of that. But unfortunately, I recorded hours and hours and hours of footage, in fact approximately 500 gigabytes worth of footage with Fraps. But apparently all of those files, almost all of those files were corrupted, and I can't use them in Windows Live Movie Maker. I have no idea why, but that happened, and that's very unfortunate. But I still have approximately 9 videos that I'm going to be uploading over the next few days, and right now, here you're watching actually stock footage, leftover footage from the other things. These were some of the very few actual event footage recordings that I still have and still work. And in the background there you can see a giant flaming walking thing that's quite frightening, and I'll talk about that in a moment when I talk about events. But there are a few things I wanted to talk about since I played through the weekend on Guild Wars 2. And first of all, I wanted to say that I went into Guild Wars 2 with very high expectations. I hadn't been in a beta before, but I had read a lot about it, and I had watched lots of YouTube videos, watched everything that I could without spoiling too much of the story, and I bought the game, and it was $60 American, so that was a pretty big investment on never having played the game before. Pre-purchasing is a real commitment, so I was a little bit worried about certain things, but I'm here to say that thankfully all of my expectations were met. It was an amazing weekend. I really wish it lasted longer. This is not to say that Guild Wars 2 is the perfect game. It has many things that it can work on, and maybe I'll talk about some of those, such as how when I first started out, it seemed that things were spawning too quickly, and you would kill a few things and finally get to the veteran or sort of the boss of that general area, and while you're fighting him, everything else would respawn. But I think maybe that was because they were trying to deal with the influx of new players on the first day of the beta, and probably they'll do that again at launch, but I don't think it's a permanent thing. It seemed a lot better on Sunday than it was on Friday night, Saturday morning. So, still some issues, but a wonderful game, and I'm going to tell you all about it as much as I can. If you have any questions, also feel free to ask in the comments. But the first thing that I wanted to talk about during this stock footage sort of news episode for the beginning was the world. The world is so beautiful. Indeed, it starts you off, I didn't even realize this, it starts you off on the lowest settings so that more people would be able to play it very well and hopefully be able to provide more data for the beta. But I didn't even notice that the settings were on low when I first started playing, because really the world is that beautiful. Everything, essentially I played in 2 starting zones mainly, and these starting zones are absolutely huge. They're enormous. In fact, it feels like multiple different kinds of zones since it's split up into different level areas in one zone. But you can spend an entire day or more just exploring a single zone, and every part of it is so beautiful and it's well connected, and the leveled areas, they flow from one to another, and events lead you around, and renown hearts lead you around as you level up. I feel like it's very, very well designed. I feel like the art is amazing. You can see right here in the raw footage that things look pretty good. I'll talk about what's happening right now in the footage actually, since that huge flaming thing is rather easily noticed right now. Events. So events can lead you around the map if you're into exploring like I was. And this specific event, it's an effigy of the Flame Legion in the Char starting area. This was essentially a random event that I had no idea what was going on. I just looked down the road and there's this giant flaming monster coming towards us surrounded by Flame Legion Chars. And needless to say, I died, as you can see right there. It was very difficult. It took many people working together to get this to work. And that's what happens with events in Guild Wars 2. Other than your personal story, there aren't really quests, traditional quests. More so, you'll just be exploring, going around, checking out the scenery, gathering resource nodes for crafting, things like that. And suddenly there will be an orange dynamic event pop up on the right. You can see there on the right the orange text. These are dynamic events. And not all of them are huge bosses like this effigy. Indeed, some of them are as simple as, oh, please collect apples so that we can make apple pie. But it's not you talk to someone and they say, bring me 5 apples. You go collect 5 apples and you bring them back. It's sort of a public quest where everyone can go and collect apples. The more people there are in the area, the higher number of apples is necessary so that it doesn't happen very, very quickly. And after you finish, it can lead to another dynamic event maybe. They flow together like that. The events that I remember most strongly were in the human starting area. There were a bunch of dynamic events involving bandits, because humans have tons of problems with bandits. The ones that I remember best were you had to protect these water pipes, and I can't remember what part of the map it was, but you had to protect water pipes from these bandits. And while we were trying to protect these water pipes, the bandits actually destroyed 2 of the 3 pipes. But we did beat the bandits, so we won the event, but 2 of the pipes were still broken. So the next event that popped up, the next dynamic event in the event chain, was that we had to defend towns workers, these workers, construction workers, while they rebuilt these pipes. And if we had lost all 3 of the pipes, it would have been a different kind of event, probably where we really lost and had to do something extreme. Or if we had only lost 1 pipe, then the next event would have been much easier. So we fixed these pipes from these marauding bandits trying to kill these workers, and we finally fixed the pipes. And then another event happened where we had to track down the bandits in their hideout or something like that. And that felt very real for me, you know, after coming from so many MMOs where we're told, please go out and kill 4 of these lizards, bring me like 20 of these teeth from these monkeys. It's really amazing personally for me to be in a world where I feel like what we're doing actually changes something, and it decides the next quest that's going to happen. It indeed is very dynamic. I realize that the word dynamic is being used as a buzzword, but it really does feel good. It feels very natural, and you're not even doing a quest for the sake of leveling up. A quest just starts happening around you, and you start taking part in it. You team up with people you don't even know, and you just work together and you get shit done, and it feels really good. So I love the dynamic events. I love everything about that. I took part in so many, everything from killing giant wasps to collecting apples to destroying bandits, capturing ghosts in a Ghostbuster type vacuum machine thing that used the lightning to kill ghosts. Everything like that was really amazing, and it was great. And it also gives you lots of rewards, everything from karma to experience to, if you do enough things and do achievements and things like that, you can also end up getting some items and things like that. It's really interesting, and I really enjoy the rewards too. But speaking of experience, dynamic events are the main way of leveling in Guild Wars 2. Some people are confused and are thinking that renown hearts are the way to go, and this isn't true. Renown hearts just guide you in the general area. They make you go where there are going to be dynamic events soon, or eventually. Sometimes they don't spawn as quick as you would like, but they always show up eventually. So leveling is done by many things in Guild Wars 2. You don't have to only do one sort of thing. You level up by exploring and unlocking points of interest, by finding vistas, which are cinematic experiences put around the map. You can level up by unlocking waypoints so you can teleport around. You level up by killing monsters, of course, by doing the renown hearts, by doing dynamic events. You gain experience by getting crafting nodes and gathering from those. You gain experience by crafting, which, by the way, crafting gives a ton of experience, much more than I thought it would, and we'll talk about that for my crafting videos. I have 3 crafting videos: weaponsmithing, leatherworking, and cooking, all of which I go through and I craft everything I can on my character, and I got approximately 3 levels from that, from level 11 to 14.5 or something like that. So really, crafting is a good idea, and you should craft. I'll talk about that more later. But leveling is great in this game. It's really wonderful for me personally, because I think I only looked at my level maybe twice on one of my characters. Really, all I did was just explore and go around. And the only time I looked at my level really was when I was in areas that were far over my level, and I realized that maybe I shouldn't be there because I was exploring too far too quickly. But the thing is about Guild Wars 2 is that if you have a hang of the dodging and the general mechanics, you can kill things that are higher level than you. It's not just, oh, I'm too low level, I'm going to lose. Especially if you have a friend, it's really not a problem. You can team up and you can dodge around and you can kill stuff that's higher level than you. If you're not so good, you can kill stuff that's on your level. And as I said, the starter zones are broken up into different levels, and you can tell what levels have a general level of enemies, which areas have certain levels by looking at the renown heart quests, because the renown hearts have sort of a, not really a requirement, but a recommendation level for what you should be approximately to do them. You can do them earlier, of course, but that tells you about what level things are in that general area. So you know where to go to level, where to go to explore, if you don't really know where you're supposed to be, if you're in a level where things are 4 or 5 levels higher than you and you can't take it. So in terms of leveling, that really rounds everything out for me. The fact that I didn't even notice I was leveling all I did was I completed achievements because it was fun to complete achievements. I explored because it was fun. I crafted because it was awesome. I got to make lots of daggers and some chess pieces and great swords and stuff like that. More importantly, I got to make lots of bags. So let's talk about crafting for a moment. Crafting is fun in Guild Wars 2 because, first of all, it doesn't take a ton of time. It's very streamlined. Basically, when you start a craft, what you're probably going to do is realize that you have a ton of raw materials that you need to make into crafting materials or ingredients. So you take your raw materials, and the first thing you usually do is you take a stack of somewhere between 80 and 120 of these things. Maybe it's something like copper ore, or maybe it's some sort of cloth, or maybe it's something as simple as flour. And you take all of those and you just turn them all into something that's actually useful for crafting. Pieces of hides, for example, hides or pieces of unstretched leather, whatever it's called, aren't very useful. You can't make anything out of it. But when you put those together and actually make them into crafting materials, usually you get a stack of about 60 or so if you level from 1 to 11 or so in a starter area. And when you do that, you get a ton of experience just by letting it go through that stack very quickly. It doesn't take the same amount of time per item. It speeds up. I believe the time halves every item that you craft. So as you go, each item takes less and less time. So it doesn't take forever to craft a stack of things. And in fact, you even get bonus experience for crafting things in large stacks. So crafting many things at once is actually the way to go if you want to do something like that. Plan around that for an efficient crafting build. As I said earlier, the crafts that I did were weaponsmithing, and I also did, weaponsmithing, leather crafting, and cooking. So for weaponsmithing and leather crafting, generally what you end up doing is that you have to take up to 4 crafting materials and put them together. You usually take 2 pieces of, for example, for a dagger, you have a blade and a hilt, and then you take an inscription, which are made with pieces of wood and monster drops like claws or venom sacs to make a sort of magic enhancement item called an inscription. And depending on what kind of inscription you put together with the blade and the hilt, you make different kinds of items. The first time you do this, if you don't have a recipe, you do this in the discovery pane, and then you put it all together and you discover a recipe, and you get lots of bonus experience for this. So that's definitely something you want to do. And then if you can't discover any more things, if you can't figure out more recipes, then you can sort of put everything together and just crank out like 12 daggers if you really want to. But I would suggest not doing that, because why would you want to do that when you can discover more recipes? Maybe you can look on the wiki, or you can experiment with more items later. So things like the claws, for example. Claws, I believe, give you precision sort of inscriptions, and there are multiple levels of inscriptions to give you better enhancements. And venom sacs give you malign or condition increasing, I believe. I think that's what they're called. I can't remember exactly, but we'll look at those in the crafting videos. Definitely something that we'll look at together and I'll talk about. So in general, I wasn't able to get any footage of a jumping puzzle because I didn't really find any that I thought were very interesting to record. I did record all of the opening cinematics for all of the races, 5 races, and I chose 5 different jobs. Your personal story opening cinematic does change depending on your choices you make in character creation. So my personal story cinematics will be slightly different from yours, no doubt. So you can try multiple things and find one that you like. I show the culture armor, which is around level 35, I think, for every race by turning the characters. I recorded a very, very bad PvP video in World vs. World. I am terrible at PvP, and PvP in World vs. World is still pretty laggy when there are multiple people around, and I forgot to turn down the graphics settings since I was using high graphics settings for PvE. I forgot to turn those down, so it's a bit choppy, but I have faith that's going to get better in a later iteration of the game when it actually finally releases. I believe it will be more optimized. I have faith. I don't know if that's well-placed faith, but we'll see. So anyway, I have many videos, around 9 or so, much less than I hoped for. I was hoping for hours upon hours of PvE content, but again, I'm very sorry to say that those were corrupted. We'll work on that when the game is released, or any of you can donate some video to me if you want to. Hopefully I'll donate my video to other people, help everyone out. I just want people to see stuff about Guild Wars 2 and then find out if this game is for them, because I completely gave up on MMOs for a long time because I was very tired of the direction they were going. The last MMO that I truly enjoyed was probably Final Fantasy XI, but Guild Wars 2 has definitely shown me that it's something that I can get excited about. So I'm really excited about this. I can't really wait a whole month, but I'm going to be playing other games for you guys, playing Limbo and probably playing Star Wars: The Old Republic, things like that to keep me busy. I hope that you tune in for this playlist in the future to check out the Guild Wars 2 videos I'm going to upload, and as usual, if you have any comments, if you have any questions, just feel free to put those in the comments. If you like what you see, if you like the information that I'm giving you, please give it a like, subscribe to my channel. I'll try to work with you as much as I can, and that's really about it. Look forward to the videos in the future. Have a good day.